if you're in any kind of leadership, whether that's in your workplace, your family, your church, or if you're just trying to influence your circle, you already know this. Leadership is hard. It's not just about managing tasks. It's about managing your emotions, your mindset, your habits, reactions, your people. And if you're anything like me, there have been moments where you tried to lead others when you weren't even sure how to lead yourself. You're showing up, you're saying the right things, you're making it all work, but deep down, you're tired, you're confused, and sometimes you're even running on empty. You're giving your best to everyone else, but you're not sure how to give anything back to yourself. That's a dangerous place to live from, because what happens on the inside always leaks into how we lead on the outside. That's why today's episode is called Lead from Within, because real leadership, the kind that creates trust, growth, and legacy, it doesn't start with authority, it starts with identity. Let's talk about how to lead in a way that's not just effective, but authentic. Not just visible, but rooted. Not just for the people around you, but from the core of who you are. First thing we need to recognize is that leadership isn't a position, it's a person. Leadership isn't something you step into just because someone gave you a title. Titles don't build trust, and having authority doesn't mean people will follow you. They follow people they believe in, and belief is earned through how you lead. You lead by how you show up when no one's looking. You lead in how you treat people who can't do anything for you. You lead in the way you handle stress, tension, pressure, and criticism. Some of the best leaders I've ever met, they're not famous, they're not flashy, some aren't even highly skilled, but they are grounded. They live what they speak. They model what they expect. They don't just do leadership, they are leaders. Leadership is who you are, not just what you do. If your leadership is built on performance alone, it will eventually fall apart. But if it's built on identity, values, and consistency, it becomes really strong. It becomes unshakable. And this is important. People don't need you to be perfect. They need you to be real. They need to see that you're not above them, but alongside them. That your strength doesn't come from always being right, but from being honest, humble, and steady in the process. Great leadership isn't about being in charge. It's about taking care of those in your charge. Something that is true that took me a long time to figure out is something that can be really freeing or it can be really convicting depending on who you are. But I learned you reproduce what you are. Not what you teach, not what you say, but what you live. If you're overwhelmed, rushed, reactive, or always stressed, guess what your team, your family, or your community will start to reflect? The same thing. We don't reproduce ideals, we reproduce environments. That's why this isn't just about self-improvement, this is about responsibility. If you want to build something healthy, you have to become someone healthy. That means dealing with your baggage. That can be really hard. Getting honest about your blind spots, asking hard questions like, why do I need to be in control? Why do I get defensive when challenged? What's driving my decisions right now? Is it purpose or fear? The most secure leaders aren't the ones who know everything. They're the ones who are constantly growing, constantly learning, and doing the deep work. And that work can feel really lonely. Sometimes it's invisible. Sometimes you wonder if it's even making a difference. But trust me, it is. Because when you shift internally, everything around you starts to shift too. When you grow in grace, you start leading with grace. When you become more grounded, the people around you feel safer. When you walk in integrity, others rise to match it. This is why your private life matters more than your public voice. What you build internally is what you will inevitably export externally. And I want to tell you how to build leadership from the inside out. What does it look like to even lead from within? How do we build a kind of leadership that actually sustains us rather than drains us? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to clarify our core values. You can't lead with conviction if you're unclear on what matters most. Your values become your compass. They help you say yes with confidence and no without apology. I want you to write them down. I want you to revisit them often. Let them shape your decisions, not your emotions. When pressure hits, your values will either guide you or they will expose you. So define them now before the storm comes. Next, we need to be honest about our gaps. No one grows by pretending they've got it all figured out. Self-awareness isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Do a personal audit. What triggers you? What situations consistently make you feel out of control or insecure? Growth starts with honesty. I want you to invite feedback, get around mentors, ask your spouse, ask your team, ask God. The answers might sting a little bit, but they will shape you. We need to practice emotional discipline. Leading from within means creating space between your reactions and your responses. When you're triggered, don't lead from that place. Breathe, pause, process, then respond with clarity and calm. Emotional maturity builds safety around you, and people thrive in safe environments. Your consistency can become someone else's stability. That's leadership. Next, we need to lead with curiosity, not control. The best leaders don't have all the answers. They ask the best questions. If you're always trying to control outcomes, you'll exhaust yourself and the people around you. But if you lead with curiosity, if you seek to understand, you'll build a culture of collaboration, not compliance. You'll unlock creativity, ownership, and trust. And we need to stay rooted in something deeper than performance. If your identity is tied to applause, metrics, or validation, your leadership is always going to be shaky. You'll live for the next win to prove you're worthy, but when your identity is rooted in something deeper, whether that's your values, your purpose, or your relationship with God, you lead from peace, not pressure. You don't need the spotlight to feel significant. You just need clarity on who you are and why you're here. Let me leave you with this. The strongest leaders I know are not the ones with the loudest voices. They're the ones with the most integrity, the most clarity, the most inner alignment, the ones that lean in with curiosity. You don't have to be perfect to lead well, but you do have to be present. And you have to be present with yourself first and then with others. You are not responsible for controlling everyone's outcomes, but you are responsible for who you are becoming. So take the pressure off of your performance, start investing in the quiet work of becoming. Because when you lead from within, when your private life and your public life match, you build something that actually lasts. Leadership isn't about impressing people, it's about impacting people. And the greatest impact comes when your leadership flows from the inside out. Lead with clarity, lead with character, lead with conviction, and the world will feel the difference. I promise. And I want to say thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Joshua Bridwell Show. Please make sure that you subscribe to stay engaged with future content. Please share to help develop even more leaders. Tune in next time. Let's grow.